Okay. Hi. I'm John. I run Alpyne 365. I'm a Microsoft partner. I work a ton with Microsoft 365 and Dynamics and that whole entire environment, that full stack of technologies. And I build out some pretty crazy stuff for folks that are trying to improve their business. I took some time after a conversation with a good friend of mine to build out kind of a demo environment of a Dynamics instance in which it would be for a dealer, like an equipment dealer, or an auctioneer, or that kind of industry, if you will, to give you kind of an idea of how flexible the system can be and how it can really serve basically anybody who needs to take advantage of stuff like this. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and move myself off the screen here. So again, this is just kind of an example, a demo environment. So it's a little rough around the edges, but overall it's pretty solid here in terms of folks that will be in the equipment industry that may be stuck working with a bunch of siloed systems that may or may not be able to work off of each other. So I didn't really customize a ton of stuff in terms of the dashboards or the accounts or the contacts or the leads and opportunities. Those are all basic sales functions that are generally unique to each organization. But the real piece here that I'm trying to focus on is how Dynamics can be leveraged for people that are in the equipment industry that may not necessarily have a need for a huge ERP system, which could be immensely expensive, generally overcomplicated, and in that kind of bucket, if you will. So the cool thing about Dynamics Sales, which is their CRM arm of things, is it's immensely flexible, and really generally the limit that's in place is really just the imagination. So in this case, I did add, I think, one custom table, which I'll show you here in a second. But as you can see here, without talking your ear off, if I pop over to equipment, I can see all the products listed here. I can break down what each of those mean here in a second here. And then, of course, in the pipeline, I have my activities, my leads, my opportunities, and my quotes. So it kind of has a nice flow to it where I have my core records, the pipeline that I'm working through, and then all the equipment products and stuff like that, of course, the billing. So kind of that full life cycle of the business. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and kind of start here with, we'll start with products. Okay. So products, I customized the form with items that are generally relevant to people who are working with equipment, right? So you have the year, the make, the model, the category, the subcategory, serial number, VIN, hours, or miles, any assigned accounts. So if this is a customer machine or if it's an actual physical machine of your own. So if you have your own inventory, you can, of course, assign warehouses here. If you have costs in place, you can, of course, put that here. What the price is for this machine, how many you have in stock, and the location here is actually going to be fed by the assigned account that you have selected here. Then this product name is actually dynamically generated from some of the items that are up here, which I'll show you here in a minute. But if you wanted to customize that, you can, of course, change that. Now, this all looks super nice, and it's nicely thought out and implemented here. However, I must say that this majority of this stuff that's specific to the industry or equipment is not out of the box. So these are customizations that I had made. And I have a significant amount of experience in the equipment industry. Now, mind you, it's a niche of the equipment industry, but I do understand a lot of the ways that the business actually operates and the information that reps and technicians need to basically be able to access super quickly in order to effectively collaborate and execute the deals that they're trying to go after, okay? Then you have a tab here for service orders, which we'll get to here in a second. So of course, that's like relevant to the service. Now, Dynamics has an entire arm for equipment service, which is called field service, okay? I built one that was specific to kind of like, let's just say that you don't have a full out service department, or if you do, it's generally like, somebody brings in a motorcycle for you to work on. And so you just fix it up real quick and you just ship out the door. You don't necessarily need a full bore service system that's going to be dispatching technicians on the road and dealing with routes and stuff like that. This is more along the lines of like just billing the job and making sure that you're able to track that effectively. Okay. Now, opportunity products, quote products, order products, and invoice products. These are all just basically where you would pull these products that you're entering into the system at certain times. So instead of trying to explain that to you. I'm just going to show you. So we're going to go ahead and just start off from an opportunity. Okay. Now, of course, you can see I already have an opportunity here, but we'll just start fresh and we'll start from there. So topic, we're going to do a 365. That's up or equipment. Okay, we're going to actually select records that we already have in place here. And I forget which one. I think that's actually, yeah, so that's fine. We'll put him. And then we will save. And like I said, I didn't do much of any editing or customization to the opportunity table. So this is all straight out of the box here. You can see the products piece here. You can see the quotes, files, and so on and so forth. Now, again, this is a Sandbox, so I did not link this to my SharePoint, which is where files would be stored. So there's a whole nother opportunity to basically store images of products and stuff like that, but I'm not going to get into that today. So anyway, I have my very bare minimum things I had to basically that was required for me to enter here, but I am going to add the account here. I have a Pennsylvania State Capital Complex just for argument's sake. And then we're going to actually say this is immediate purchase. Their budget is $200K. Purchase process is actually a committee, and I'm aware of that. I know who's going to make the decision. I'll leave the capture summary just for not making up stuff. I'm not gonna deal with that right now. I already know the need. Done. This is not so for this, if you're actually doing this for real, you actually write out what the customer needs, and then your ideal solution for that customer, right? I know who the stakeholders are. There's no competitors, but I'm gonna say yes. Okay. Now we're in the proposal phase. Now let's just say that as I'm working this deal, maybe I'm still in the develop phase, right? I have ideas of what might be helpful for this customer specifically. But I don't necessarily want to go through the process of working up a quote, because it's then I have a quote that's just sitting there that's not going to be helping anybody, just bloating up the system with nonsense, right? So here in this case, I can, of course, choose my price list, which a price list is basically groupings of products in this case. So I don't need necessarily to be quoting or working with service in this respect. So I'm actually going to just choose equipment because that's what I'm trying to sell. They do give you this option. Again, this is not customized. This is right out of the box. I do give you the option to do for revenue to user provided. So I would go up here and type in my estimated revenue at the very top of the screen here. And what that allows me to do is to see how much revenue is there, how much potential revenue there is in my opportunity bucket, so in my pipeline. Or I can do what's called system calculated, which is generally the preferred way in my mind. I love whenever systems can basically do the thingy for you and you don't have to keep up with it. So in this case, I'm going to add a product that I think this person would actually really benefit from. And you see a whole list of products right here. Let's just say that I'm claustrophobic. I don't want to look at this little tiny view. So I then expand it into all of the existing products that I can select from. Okay. So in this case, I think that they could probably benefit from a Bobcat skid steer based on our conversations. Perhaps a John Deere actually, we're just going to do Bobcat first. That's right, I have to do one at a time. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, that price looks okay. We're going to leave it there. Save. And you know what? Just because they said skid steer, I think I might have another solution for them. So I'm going to add another product in the event that, as a tack-on product. Let's just say we'll do a backhoe for more, when you need more finesse. We'll do that. Okay. Save and close. Okay, so right now, my gut instinct is saying that they're going to need a backhoe and they're going to need a skid steer, both of which are currently in stock. Okay, otherwise they would not have shown up on that list. All right, I can go ahead and say save, and now as you see at the top here, my estimated revenue is $131,000, and that is being fed directly by the price per unit. Okay. That's what's really neat about that, is it's basically ready for you. So let's go back to make sure this is at the developed stage. And what that revenue right there says for me, and for everybody else who's monitoring this, is on the dashboards, this data is reflected in my pipeline. So I can see a visual representation of where my pipeline looks, in which stage each of them are, and that kind of helps us get a better picture on what to expect moving forward. So we're going to go back to, well, actually, we'll just go here. When I click on that, I'll see both of those opportunities here. If I just want to, if there's like 1,000, if you're working a whole bunch of opportunities here, you would basically just click on one of these to auto filter. So this is the one we were currently working. We're gonna go back to it. Okay. So now that we have those products selected, that I think is going to be the case, let's just say we're now actually going to be in the propose phase, because I mentioned this to the customer. They're like, yes, that's exactly what I need. Can you quote that out for me? And you're like, oh, awesome. Okay, I quote this for this guy. Now I will just click on new quote. Okay, and that will open up a brand new draft quote. What that will do is that will auto pull the products that were in my opportunity. Okay. So I don't have to do any thinking or whatever. It's just done for me. And I love that. so I already have all this stuff done. Now, again, I did minimal editing to the quote here, but I did add this little piece right here where it basically is mirroring information from the account that's a potential customer. And the reason why I did that is because, so sometimes you have a bill to or a ship to that's different, which is entirely possible, particularly because like if you have a customer who has multiple locations, you want to know that information. But let's just say that you have this account, here's the address. So they don't really need to enter this multiple times. And if there are ship to addresses, I would just have a child account, frankly, for this, and then have that selected for the opportunity. That's all nonsense that most people are going to cross their eyes while I'm talking about that. But basically, I don't think that you necessarily need to have these fields here in a lot of cases, frankly. But sometimes you do. I'm gonna leave them there just for transparency's sake. Okay, and same with shipping method. Like that depends on what you guys work with. So terms, whatever you can put whatever you want here. We'll call. Okay. So now I have my quote put together here. Let's just say that I want to change the price of this because through conversations, or maybe I looked at the machine and it wasn't quite as cherry as I had expected. Maybe I'll drop the price a little bit. And then if I want to do that, I can actually add a manual discount here, right? So we'll put like, $1,200. Okay. Let me save and close. And that'll deduct that amount from the amount that's due. So that'll be reflected right here. Okay. Okay. Of course, it's being here. Now let's just say that maybe they, are awesome and they're a customer that we really like. We're going to give them a 2% discount because of whatever promotion we're running. I'm going to save. And you see the total amount now that's due is less than what it was. Okay. Super convenient. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you this thing here. So within Dynamics, you're able to create templates. Okay. For my personal Dynamics, I probably should have pulled this up earlier. Pull it out here and get it ready. Okay. Anyway, while that's loading, I'm going to go ahead and actually click on export to PDF, right? So I have a template that was created specifically for this demo. It seems like overkill. But essentially what it is it's going to take all the information that I've been working with, and it's going to put into a nice, pretty version of that instead of what's basically out of the box, which is it's pretty awful. But you can make these look super nice. In this case, this is my demonstration one here. Let's put a person's name here for the contact. Put my alter ego on Norman. Oop. Okay. I'll export to PDF. Okay. Okay, so now you can see, I have my Alpyne rep. I gotta save, that's right. Save. Okay, now I can export, and you'll see the name filled in there. So I have the customer name already auto-filled. I have the quote number that's auto-filled from the system. The date, that's today's date. I have the exact quote total. In fact, you know what? Let's also add an expiration date. So let's just say that for now, I am offering this discount for the next week. So we're going to say this expires on the 15th. I'm going to save. And so on a quote, export to PDF. I now have an expiration date for the quote for when it expires, right? Now, a lot of what you see, I'm clicking around like, oh yeah, I forgot that field. That's just because I don't have any of these required because just for demo purposes. But more often than not, you would have a lot of these fields that are marked as required. So you can't even move forward without that information. So, but you can see here, I have the description of the product here. I have the serial number or VIN. Now this is dynamically generated. So let's just say I'm going to add a truck. Let's add a truck to this. Okay, I'll do Chev. I think there's a Chevrolet in here. Yeah. Okay, I'll leave that there. Save and close. Okay. And now when I export the PDF, it ran through, and I have it so it's dynamic. Okay, so in this case, the serial number will be with prefix of SN, and then if there's a VIN, it'll just have the VIN number here. So it's just reflecting information from the product itself. And then same with the hours and miles. So I just put meter here, and you can see how many hours are on the product or how many miles are on the odometer. And of course, it's just mirroring how much of the quantity is here, the extended amount, and then overall total here. Okay. So that's a super clean version of what the quote can look like. Now, what's really cool is, let's just say that there's maybe some sort of contract that you guys also want to include with your, excuse me, sorry, one second, I'm pulling something here. So maybe there's some sort of contract that you want to have as an option whenever you're working with a customer. So you want to have like, not just the pricing, but you want to have like an actual full out proposal, like a cover page. You want to have documentation, you want to have policies, you want to have all kinds of stuff. Basically a contract, if you will. You're absolutely able to do that. So I'm going to pull this up. I have the color scheme, so I don't forget which one's which. All right. Oop, zoom out a little bit. All right. So this is a quote that I have as a demo for demo purposes. And so exporting to PDF, you can see here I have both that pretty version that I had just shown you, but then I have this other version which is called a statement of work. Now, if we work together, you have the option to work as like bill as you go, or you can of course have it to where you would have a project vision of what you want to accomplish, and then we will work out the actual, like, the timeline, the price of everything, what you would expect from me, and vice versa. And so I don't necessarily just want to hand off a quote to some folks who are like, I know I want to actually have the timeline, who's responsible for what. And so I have a thing called here, it's called a statement of work. And so it includes a cover page. It includes, documentation here. So it shows me, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. So it shows me like all the information I have here. I have policies, I have terminology that's important for agreements, and a full outline of everything that's going on. Now, what's kind of neat about this is all being fed from stuff that I've already built out. And what's even neater is that this stuff all integrates with stuff like Adobe Sign. So the purpose of showing you that was really just to show you that you're not limited to just showing a quote. If you want to have a full out proposal, you're absolutely able to do that. Okay. So let's just say that this is looking pretty good. I'm happy with the pricing, what it looks like. I'm actually going to, as part of our policy, is activate the quote, meaning it's not a draft anymore. This is an active quote I have then provided to my customer. So in my opportunity, I will mark present proposal, and now I am in the close phase because I presented that. Okay. And of course, if I need to go back, let's say I need to have a revision. So like they're like, oh, well, that was good, but I need you to do this instead. Like maybe tweak that or remove that from the quote. So I can go ahead and revise that quote. Okay. Maybe they don't need, what was it? The backhoe. Maybe they don't need the backhoe. And delete that one from this list. Okay. Then we're going to activate the quote again. And as you see here, there's a revision ID. So each time I do that, it's going to uptick that number by 1. What's kind of neat about that is you have version history then. So if you need to go back and see that stuff, you're absolutely able to do that. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back. We have back. And now you can see both of those quotes closed because, this was the one that I had activated, and then we needed to revise it. Then quote ID. And we're going to go back into, the stage here. We have completed the final proposal. We're going to present that here shortly. I'm going to save. And now we're going to go back to the quote. Okay. Customer loves it. We went through the process of having it signed via, whatever, Adobe Sign or DocuSign, whatever your thing is there, or, print it off and hand it to them. And from there, we're ready to go ahead and create the order. Okay, status reason is 1. Perfect. Pricing, timing, and execution, just for future notes. All right, so the opportunity we can of course choose to close the opportunity now as well while we're doing this. and then have it calculate the actual revenue from the quotes, or we can say no and enter that information there, but we're gonna have to yes because it's all system calculated. Okay. All right. So good job. You closed your opportunity. You won. And now we have the order here placed. So now we're in the process on our end, on the back end of the equipment. We are the equipment guys. And what we're doing is we're trying to take this order that we have and execute and fulfill the order that they're asking for, right? What's really cool about this too is, let's go to the product itself. Okay. Now we added the Chevy and we added the Bobcat skid steer. Now I will admit, like, this is not out of the box. Again, this is pretty heavily customized. It's the equipment product stuff. But I have it to where it automatically will remove inventory whenever an order has been created. So you don't have to go back here and manually adjust the stock inventory is in here, or built literally to handle inventory and stuff like that. But that's why I like dynamic sales so much, is because maybe I don't need the full bore ERP system because my operation is not that complicated. It's kind of a one in, one out kind of deal. Or if it is more complicated, then of course that can be accounted for. But in this case, I have a pretty straightforward operation, right? So inventory, whenever orders are created, is then taken out in terms of being committed. Now, of course, if an order falls through or whatever, or something happens to the machine, we can go back and admin can go in here and just tick that back up and do stuff for the orders if they need to. So if you need to adjust the stock quantity, you can do that. Okay, so we're gonna go back. Let's go back to the order. Okay, so this order is now complete. We have delivered this to the customer, or maybe we're at the point where we need to invoice it prior to actually delivery or delivering the product. So let's just say that we're ready to invoice this puppy. Create the invoice. And then what that does is it closes out the order, which means we've completed it. And we are now in the invoicing stage, and now just billing takes over. Okay. So this is pretty straightforward. I actually have, for myself, this is an automated piece of the puzzle. Like I don't handle invoicing manually anymore, but it's all automatic. Same with delinquent payments. That's also taken care of automatically. So there's a lot of opportunity to basically take care of that kind of stuff if you would like to do that way. And of course, you can mark invoice paid, cancel invoice. We'll go ahead and mark this as paid. Complete or partial. We'll say complete. All right, they pay the bill. Awesome. All right, so going back to the products here, let's just say that I want to find a specific machine that's like a serial number that I'm looking for, or a VIN number. I can, of course, filter by here, and let me copy one first to start. Okay, if I have the serial number, I'm going to filter by equals and type it in. It'll, of course, automatically pop up right here. Now, I don't have this configured at this point, but you can add any of these columns as searchable. And then whenever you type the search into here, you will find that immediately. It'll cross-reference any field you want it to be. But as you can see here, I have it set really easily for visual indication. Okay, so let's actually clear out this. We don't need this available right here. So the way I structured this view specifically was to have a quick visual, like, okay, I can see this one is not in stock. Let me just pass over that. These ones are all in stock, so I want to look at the green. Okay. And if I want to filter that out, of course I can, but maybe I don't want to off the bat, because I'm like, oh, I thought that Bobcat steer was going to be available. Dang it. It's not, but here we go. So as I'm doing that, I can see visually like what's in stock. I can see very quick what the name is here. I can see where this product is actually at. Its year, its make, its model, the subcategory, like what it is, and then the major category of it. And all of its, all of its properties. So serial number, VIN, hours, miles, standard cost, list price, the ID. And let's just say it's only available for a certain period of time. You can have that there, and which account it's assigned to. So in this case, you see I have sites that are assigned to it, and that's what's feeding this location piece. Let's say I also want to see super quick just to see where everything is, because maybe I'm in a specific geographic region, so I only want to look at that information. So as you can see here, I have 8 machines that are currently, I'll try this by category. So, okay, that's right. I made a couple charts here. I got a little carried away. But I can see equipment that's by category. I can see it by location, by make, and by subcategory. So I currently have 8 heavy construction equipment machines, farm equipment and machinery, commercial trucks, industrial machinery, and cars and vehicles. Now, this kind of stuff is typically super handy for tracking reporting for reporting purposes. The location, let's just say that I'm in the Harrisburg, PA area. I only want to see machines that are currently in the Harrisburg area. So I can click on that chunk right there, and it will auto filter the information I have here for me. And then same with Baltimore, Maryland. Maybe if I look at that stuff, I can see what's there. And lastly, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So those are a really quick, easy way to filter items that are there. And also see a visual representation of that. The equipment by make, I can also see that. I only have like 21 products in here. So if you're a real operation with this type of, in this industry, like of course you'll have like a ton of different products here. So this will make it more meaningful. Where I came from, it was always a very consistent, 2 brands were always huge in terms of the amount of inventory there was. And then beyond that, it had kind of fallen into smaller slices there. But now we kind of see like how many products we have per brand. For reporting purposes, typically is what that's super helpful for. And then subcategories. So if I want to see trends about like, I have 7 excavators that are currently in stock. So let's just say I'm talking to a customer. I'm like, what do we got? Okay, well, we're looking for excavation. I can click on that super quick. I can see exactly what I have available and where it's all at very quickly within like a second, being able to filter that. If they're looking for a backhoe, I can find that too. Or if they're looking for, what is this, a vehicle? Track loader, utility vehicle. Yeah, you can see all that. Okay. Now, let's just say that I see that this truck was sold. I'm like, oh man, who was that sold to? I can scroll over, I can copy the VIN, and that's where we're going back to these products here, right? So if I see opportunity products, remember I added those products to that opportunity specifically. You can see where those are. You can see what products are all currently on quotes or have been on quotes in the past. And of course, these views can be changed to basically filter out stuff that you don't want to see. Same with order products. So as you see, I have 2 orders in here because I was testing stuff. But let's just say, all right, well, this is kind of whatever. We're going to filter by it. All right. So it equals this specific VIN. All right. So then I can find out that, oh, this is the order that this is the one I was testing on. So this was the order that machine or that truck was sold, right? So it's super easy to find out. You can say, oh, this customer has it. Okay, got it. And who's the sales rep for that? Okay, John. Okay, got it. Okay, got it. And so you don't have to go chasing stuff down. It's basically done for you. It's super easy to find just by filtering stuff. And then, of course, same with invoice products. You can find out that too. Okay. So that's the product stuff I wanted to kind of quickly go over. So we have the opportunity, working that. You have some recommendations. From there, you move to quote. From quote, you move to order. And from order, you move to invoice. Okay. Now, let's just say that we have a service light department. We don't have technicians that are going out all over the place to take care of stuff. So we don't have like a service van fleet. But we do have in-house service technicians that will like take machines or equipment that comes into our property. They do a quick inspection. They'll replace some tracks here and there or engine parts or whatever. It's generally pretty light. So it's not a major focus of our business. So there's a service orders piece here, which is this is a custom table, right? Let's see if I can find one that actually has. We'll just make one from scratch. It's fine. What do we want to work on, fellas? We'll work on, we'll just work on the Caterpillar. Do that. Okay. So in this product, of course, taking the time to put all the information in here. I wanted to show you. So dynamically how this is done. So the product name here, how it has the brand, the model, and then the subcategory here. And then anytime I change that stuff, it'll change the title for me too. Right? I forgot what it already was here. Let's refresh. Can I refresh? It's already saved. Dang it. It's saved. Okay. What is that? Excavator? Okay, cool. Nice. I can put it back. Now let's just say that I want a custom name. Excavator. Yellow. So if I do change this, it leaves this alone. It won't make the change. Kind of just a case, because like sometimes like people want to have it more customized to find it easier, but if not, we can just leave it alone. All right. Okay. So that side, this was the ADHD stuff, man. All right. So now that we have that kind of taken care of, we're going to go to service orders. And let's just say that this had just come in, or we have some quick maintenance to be doing on it. It'll auto-generate the work order number for us. This is going to be starting off today, so we're going to kick that off today, and we're going to go ahead and save. As you see here, the product that's selected here was autofill because I came directly from that record. Otherwise, I would have to manually choose which product we're working with here. Whenever you have the product here, instead of making you select the account that's assigned to it and pull all the information from it, basically the second that you choose the product, it pulls all of that from the product record. So again, I love that where you do one thing and it pays dividends in 8 different ways. And so that in this case, it's taking that product information and mirroring it right here for the technician or whoever's looking up this information. So they can see very quickly, which account it's assigned to. In this case, it's one of our sites. So it's the warehouse or the yard that we're working with. Which location that's in. So we know it's in Harrisburg, the year, make, model, and so on and so forth. So all the machine aspects about that, right? Then we have who owns this. So if we want to put that as a technician, we can add that there. Currently, since I created this record, my name will always be attached to it. So it'll say like John Borman created this record. So if I change this to be a different user, that's not going to cause any issues in terms of like tracking who did what. We have the statuses here. So it's active and inactive. When it's active, it's by default active, but whenever it's inactive, it would be either complete or canceled. Those are customizations, but basically it's like we completed the job or it ended up being unnecessary. Okay. So now that we have the service order created, we need to actually end up adding these service order items. This is basically the maintenance stuff, right? So in this case, we're going to put in service labor, initial inspection, one, and our price, we're going to manually put that in here. Now, service labor actually has its own price by itself, but in this case, I wanted to have it be flexible, so I didn't have that auto-filled here. But that is an option if you wanted to do something like that, where you have it auto-pull the rate, if you will, for service labor. You can put that there. I just chose not to because this is a demo. So I'm going to go ahead and save. It's going to take 1 hour, and so it's only be $100. Okay, when we go back, we now see that we have one service item that's attached to this specific service order. Okay. I'm going to add another one because as I'm working on this, I know that I need to get parts. And forgive me for not having a real part. I just made something up. So they're actually going to need 3 or 4 of those on this specific product. And this product specifically is $700 a pop. Okay. That's probably conservative, but we're just going to say that. But it's non-existent part. Okay, so they needed 4 of these parts on this machine to be repaired. And so we're going to save that, and we can put notes here about like upon further inspection. It was determined at, but okay, so you put your notes there about maybe what happened just for tracking purposes. So let's just say that it's 6 months down the road or a month down the road, and you're like, hey, why did you get that part for this product? And you're like, I don't remember. You can go back and check super quickly to find out without having to remember this stuff. Okay. As you see here, we have 4 parts. We have 1 hour of service labor. And if I need to add another service labor in there, we can of course do that. So service labor. So we can put an asterisk ahead of time that'll find that easier. Just do parts install. It took 10 hours. Price per unit, 100. Okay. Now we have all of the pricing in place here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, so I have this field called total due. What this is called a roll up field. And what that does is it basically on a scheduled basis, it will run through all of these service order items and then calculate the total. The totals here, and put that on the service order's value. So if I'm like impatient and I don't want to wait to the end of the day or to the next time it's scheduled, you can go ahead and force it to be recalculated here. So now we have a $3,900 bill for service. We're going to go ahead and save. And now if we go back to the actual product here, we can see there's an active service order on this product specifically, and it's for $3,900. So of course we can track that if we wanted to down the line. If we want to have a dashboard for all active service orders or revenue from service orders, we can see that super easily. And this is without having Dynamics field service. And again, this is like if it's a super simplified service operation you have running, versus something that's like a fully fledged, like multi-location, service business where you have 20 vans or something like that rolling around with technicians. Like that's where you need to start thinking about legitimate service or a legitimate Dynamics field service. But in this case, it's pretty straightforward, right? Labor, parts, no problem. All right, from there, we're actually going to mark this as an active because I'm the technician and I know I finished it. So I'm going to mark it as an active and I have completed this job. I'm going to save and close. Now, when we go back to that product, there is no longer an active service order. So we know we're clean and clear. Okay. Free and clear. That's the word. We'll get there. All right. And then now, since I've closed that, what happens is that's going to automatically create an invoice for me. All right. So this invoice was, I think it was this one. No, this bottom one. So it automatically took that service order and it created an invoice for me because that's the way service orders, I shouldn't say it always, but so we had the work order in place. And once it was completed, we just go ahead and straight up invoice it, right? Just by closing it, marking it as completed. And so that automatically created the invoice. It pulled over all of the, everything we did and all the pricing for it. And then it's pulling it up right here for that specifically. Then, of course, if we wanted to have an automation at this point to auto email the customer, we can absolutely do that, or have it be taken care of any other way. And so that's one less thing for you to have to deal with. And so that's kind of the full breadth of it. You have adding your products in here. So another thing that's probably a concern or a thought is, let's just say I have hundreds of products that I'm like, oh my gosh, like how do I import all those? It's import. It's super easy. So you would have a template that would be provided from this, and then you would import from Excel. And from there, you literally just choose the file. All right, we're gonna do downloads, import, and do next. And the nice thing about having the template already in hand is the mapping from field to field will be done for you, because you'll have already created and formatted everything the way it needs to be. Otherwise, you'd have to go through here and manually map everything, which is a huge pain in the butt, and it can often fail. So we're just going to go ahead and get back, but we just hit the finish import, and that would go ahead and pull that data for us. So it would be a very, very quick step to basically bring all your data into here in terms of products. So again, if you're working with a multiple location, that's like probably like, I'm not going to give a number. You know your business better than I would. But essentially, like if you're just working with products here where you're selling stuff left and right, and you want to have the ability to create service orders for products, you can absolutely do so. Here, yeah, overall, I had this thought of this demo environment just a couple days ago, and I was like, let's just see what I can build out super quick. And so this is, again, all I did was customize the product table, a little bit of the opportunity and quote and order and invoice product stuff. But aside from that, this is mostly out of the box. There is that table, the service orders table, that's a brand new table. And then the service order items, those two items are custom tables for this specifically. So, but beyond that, everything else here is basically out of the box. I just did some light customization for the theme and the layout of stuff. But yeah, so that's just like, again, it's like if you're working with, the example I had was like, if you're doing auctioning, so you have a ton of inventory that you need to manage and maintain. If you're working with siloed information, it's really tough to keep that all super organized. And it's really tough for your team to see like what's available. Sometimes the systems you may be working with is like, it's almost there, it's almost there, but not quite what you're trying to have available to your team. And like, there's constant headaches with working through stuff. And that's where Dynamics comes to really shine, because like you're able to customize stuff. So if you don't like something, you're like, well, that sucks. It's like, well, let's fix it. And Dynamics is like, yeah, man, it's cool. I was just giving you an idea. Kind of that kind of mentality where it's like, here it is. Here's the playground and here's the tools. Go nuts. Like, have fun, kid. They just toss you the keys basically, which can be great or terrible in some cases. But yeah, I've had yet to have someone toss me an initiative or something they're trying to accomplish, and Dynamics sales not being able to handle it. And so that's why I'm always a very big proponent of this platform specifically. Like we're even working with, a lot of the free CRMs you can get a hold of. Like they're great for being free, especially. But there's a lot of limitations in terms of what you're able to do from a customization perspective that can be scalable. right? So like I showed you, where you do one thing on one table and it can help in 8 different tables. Like I love building stuff in that way, and that's where other CRMs tend to struggle without having to spend an arm and a leg. Whereas Dynamics, if you get with a partner who knows what they're doing, they can work fairly quickly. Like everything in life, be careful the partner you choose, because you can be trapped in meetings after meetings after meetings, versus just getting it done. So at any rate, this is again to show you from beginning to end. I have my pipeline, I am working an opportunity, I am quoting, I am creating an order, and then I am invoicing, all in one system. I'm not flopping around all over the place. It's not like I'm confused, because everybody is working from the same system. So the inventory is managed in one place, the opportunities are managed in one place. It's all one single source for truth, if you will. And it looks nice, right? So the cool thing about this is you customize this to exactly your tastes. If you're working with e-commerce, you can of course have that conversation. And just like with the partner stuff, is be careful about whenever you're choosing the system you're working with. Now, just to clarify, this is just a demo of Dynamics with some light customizations that I built up in a couple of days, just with a little bit of inspiration from a good friend of mine. But overall, whichever system you end up choosing, just be careful with that, because I have a background in marketing too. So the thing that irks me the most a lot of times is if you go online and you look for equipment dealer CRM or ERP, you're going to come across folks that market themselves as exactly that. And it's not true. I've worked with clients who are trapped, if you will, with vendors like that, who are not anything against the team, but basically being housed overseas, which is really tough, especially whenever you need to be able to pivot quickly in your market. It's a bit of a challenge, but Dynamics is one of those things where your industry is a lot less important when it comes to Dynamics. It's more so the vision you have for the company. Just because Dynamics is so flexible, it can be built out to exactly your specification in 99.9% of the way, what you're trying to do. And what's really cool is, I'm not going to get into it too much, is you're able to leverage things like Excel or Power BI, and both of those are for you can use for really in-depth and very strange data points you're trying to track. So let's just say that I want to see service orders in relation to revenue, in relation to the customer. And you're like, that's good, but those are three different tables we're working through. And that's where stuff like Power BI and Excel can take those 3 different tables and merge them into one coherent one, so you're able to report on that in the way that you're trying to for the business. Now, that's a very strange example, but I mean, if you know, sometimes you're asking for metrics that you don't really know how to get. That's where you're leveraging Dynamics in relation to Microsoft 365's stack, you really benefit from. So having a fully aligned and integrated stack without having to pull teeth is a really huge benefit for Dynamics as well. And yeah, so if you're in the industry for equipment, by all means, let me know if you want to have a one-on-one demo for this, or if you want to poke around a little bit. I'm happy to show you this. Or have any questions, by all means, drop a line. I'm here to help. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.